Oh yeah. Hello, Sex Geek. It's Reid from ReidAboutSex.com, and it's time for our walk. Do we have a surprise guest here on Facebook Live, ladies and gentlemen? Tatyana Brown, world champion spoken word person.
Sure.
All around awesome person and friend and roommate. You say hi to Facebook Live?
Oh, hello, Facebook Live. What are you talking about today?
We're talking about traveling at the speed of pleasure.
That sounds like a really fucked up Star Trek knockoff.
Exactly.
All right. I hope y'all have fun.
Bye. Special guests, just walking around the neighborhood. These are who we see today. And who are you, neighbor? Who are you, and where are you from? And if you're just joining us, let us know how many of these videos do you think you've watched ish. Give us a range. Let's hear from people about how many videos you think you've watched, because then we can say hi to the people who are watching their first video, because we know that people have been sharing our little walks together, so thank you for that. And people have been reposting and leaving comments, and I'm at my 5,000 Facebook friend limit. So people can follow, because that's a thing that Facebook has been doing for a while. You can follow people. You don't have to just friend them. And then people have been setting up in their, in their notifications that Facebook will alert them when somebody starts a live video that you're following or that you're friends with. So friends of mine have been saying that it's fun when their little notification pops up, and then they get to watch the video. And I haven't really been able to commit to a regular time for sharing the videos, but I try to do it before nightfall when I can remember. So how many videos have you watched, neighbor? And maybe one day I'll come walking in your neighborhood and we'll say hi to you. Today we are talking about traveling at the speed of pleasure. And what I mean by that, as I take a little pic and say hi, hey everyone. So what I mean by this was, for those of you who don't need too much information, Allison's mom, if you're watching, you should hit pause now. So Allie and I were taking a break from the things we were doing this weekend for a little sex time together, a little intimate sensuality time. And Allison, I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this, but Allison is on her period, and so was feeling a little tender. And I asked, well, what does that mean? And, she was like, well, I've had a couple of tampons in over the last 12, 24 hours, and so things are just tender. And for me, as a penis owner, I was like, oh, that, that would kind of change it a little bit. I hadn't thought of it like that. So we had to go slow. And not that we go fast all the time, but there was I had a different awareness of us needing to warm up, which was it foreplay? Was it not foreplay? Or was it just me listening a little bit different in a geeky way? And I'm like, oh yeah, if something's going on in your body, we should slow it down until the body or your body or my body kind of catches up. For those of you who ever grew up in cold, wintry environments with ice or packed snow, you know that when you're trying to get traction and pull out of a driveway, you just don't hit it. You have to go slow enough till you feel the tires kind of catching on the surface so that you can move forward. You don't want to go into a skid automatically. And I think, these are my thoughts, because, and Allison, I'm sorry if you noticed this, but maybe you didn't, while we're having some of our sex, I started thinking about, I should talk about this on Facebook Live today. And so I was a little part of me that was a smidge distracted, because I was noticing what I was noticing, and I was like, we should teach this. This is useful stuff. So the thing I was kind of thinking about, just a smidge, while Allison and I were together, but I thought about this later, was the idea of, you know, how do you listen to your partner's body and to your own body so that you know when it's safe to hit the gas, so to speak, or to go a little faster, or to pick up speed, or to, you know, blank, whatever. Whether that's penetration, whether that's undressing people, whether that's, you know, whatever. So it was just very interesting, and it had me thinking about the concept that maybe some of you are really good at already, which is kind of like this idea of you travel at the speed of pleasure. And what I mean by that is how fast you're going is always going to be at the speed, because it's not actual speed, but how fast you're going is appropriate for what's needed in the moment for people to experience maximum pleasure, versus when you go too fast or too hard, or, you know, doing something that is really just creating sensation, but it's sensation without traction. It's like you're spinning your wheels. The idea being, if you're touching somebody really softly and slowly, and you can feel what you're feeling, and they can feel what you're doing, versus if you're just rubbing them really fast and there's a lot of sensation, but it's not really doing anything. There's a lot going on, but it's not really achieving what it is you're trying to, you know, move towards, if that makes sense. So how do you, the question then becomes, if you know, think this is an interesting idea, it's like, how do you know how fast is the right speed of pleasure? And if you're lucky, you get to hang out with and play with people, and maybe you yourself are somebody who has their words and can speak up and say, you know, here's what I need, or this feels good, this doesn't feel good, or, you know, can you go slower? Can you go faster? Can you do more pressure? Can you do less pressure? Can you use your fingernails versus your fingertips? Can you be more bitey and chompy and less slobbery? Like, whatever those things are. If you're lucky, you're sleeping with people like that, and they just kind of help you tell or check in or report, like, what the speed needs to be. And, you know, if you're lucky, you're somebody who has your words and knows how to describe what it is, or pinpoint what it is that your body needs, and describe it in a way where your partner's like, yes, excellent, got that. With Allison and I, a piece from today was, well, she's like, well, I want to, you know, can I have a vibrator? Like, I'm gonna grab the Hitachi. Where's the Hitachi? And she knew for herself. And I'm gonna apologize in advance because I didn't check in with Allie about sharing this stuff. I'm assuming it's okay. But if this video mysteriously disappears, it's because I will return home and she'll be like, why did you share all that? But I think we're fine. Because I imagine if Allison came with me on this walk, this is exactly what we'd be talking about. So she was like, you know, let's use the vibrator. Let's make sure we have lube on hand. And, you know, I would like penetrative sex, but I need to warm up first. And so there was a lot of agency in words that helped me kind of figure out the like, oh, you know, we need to slow this way down as compared to, you know, the other day when we had a quickie that went really fast and was really awesome, but our bodies were in a very different place. I think the big piece of advice is to just always check in and always be trying to get better at using your words and encouraging your lovers to use their words. And even though you know or have some assumptions or some really good data that X, Y, and Z tend to work really well, or, you know, A, B, and C my partner really loves almost all the time, treat every situation like it's an Etch-a-Sketch and shake it up. And, you know, you're always starting with a new drawing. And you're always, kind of questioning your assumptions as you're going in, which is really just like your ability to take the information that you have, know that it's there, but not make assumptions. I think that's just a kind of, maybe a little formula or a way of describing being present, a way of, checking in with your partner and being there, and being in the moment in a way that doesn't just erase where people are in the moment and replace it with these ideas or this data that you have, where, X, Y, and Z have always worked. And so we will do X, Y, and Z, and we'll do it in a way that we've always done it, because 80% of the time it's awesome, and it works for both of us. I think the upgrade there is, that stuff usually works, that those are favorites, but you're aware that it might be that today is one of those 20% days. And so you're checking in and being present and being in the moment and going with it. That's a much better place to be, I think, as a lover, as a human being, when you're trying to be erotic and sensual with people. It's a better place or better way, I think, of approaching your own sexuality when you're checking in with your own body and what do I really need right now. You feel horny, you're going to masturbate, and you're like, oh, this is the thing I always like. But, maybe you pause and you take a breath and you sit there and you're like, what does my body really want? And then you check in, because maybe one day, that 20% of the time, your body's going to say, we need to do this instead. Or you'll have a new idea or insight. And then all of a sudden you're in the realm of, because you're present and not making assumptions, but you're not throwing out all your data, now you're in this really interesting realm of creativity, which, with Allison and I today, that's kind of where I was. And I'm like, ooh, well, if we slow it down a lot, what can we do, or what can I do if I know that you're tender? What can I do that would spice things up and maybe be new? What can I slow down in a different way? And so, I was in a more creative headspace, and, we got to just go really slow with our sex. And I know that Nicole Daedone from One Taste kind of coined, I don't know if she coined the term, but, was the one who made it more famous, to talk about slow sex, riffing off of the slow food, slow cooking movement. But, in really slowing it down, if you don't have a lot of really super slow-mo, super slow-mo sex, if you don't have a lot of that, then trying that feels really new and different. And so, for those of you who are like, well, what do you actually mean, Reid? Basically what it meant was we made out with almost penetration happening. And we were in no rush to get to penetration. And then, we're like, well, what about that vibrator that we pulled out from beneath the bed? Like, oh, what are we going to do with that now? Let's add that. And so we just built it really slowly in a way that was really fun for me. And in a way where I was only thinking just a smidge about telling you all about how to teach this idea. Because I've used that term before, moving at the speed of pleasure, and I did not Google to see if anybody else has ever said that. So it could be very well that somebody else has talked about it, and maybe I heard it, and I just, thought haha, I came up with this great term. It's probably already out there. So if any of you want to Google it and see if it's attributed to anybody, and even if it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm the first person that ever said it. Because remember, there was a time before blogs and YouTube where people talked about things, and there was an oral tradition. So who knows? But what do you think about this idea of moving at the speed of pleasure, which really means, you know, is it you or your partner or who in the group is traveling the slowest, so that you can all adjust the speed, because it's not really miles per hour or anything like that, but can you adjust your speed and the intention of your attention to create a situation where the people involved can feel the maximum amount of pleasure without you going too fast, too hard, too soon, where it's not really pleasure, it's just sensation. And most people aren't, they're looking for the kind of sensation or the pace or the amount of pressure or the right kind of sensation that will allow them to feel the most in a way that's occurring to them as pleasure. If we go into the kink world, there are a lot of people who are into sensation play, and you can geek out. Maybe we'll have a video on that one day. But you can geek out on different kinds of sensation, and then for some people, when they're really aroused, you know, things that would look like to me like, ouch, that's gotta hurt. For some people, that kind of painful sensation gets registered completely different, either because it's erotically anchored and it's just a turn on to their brain, or body chemistry wise and neurologically, it's a turn on to their nervous system. And we've talked about that in previous videos. I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, oh, this was the other thing I wanted to share. So I'm getting ready in a couple of weeks. I have my 2-day deep dive retreat for people who have been going through my online course, Sex 10X online. And this is the thing that I totally forgot about when I talked about this. The reason this is so useful to talk about, and the reason I'm such an advocate for show and tell sex education, is the concept of describing it is way more powerful to learn when somebody shows you it. And in a world where we're not allowed to watch people have sex as a means of learning, I mean, we can watch porn, but it's not like we can ask questions of the porn performer. So I have a 2-day deep dive retreat where I'm going to be doing show and tell sex education, and we'll actually have explicit show and tell stuff, so where I can talk about this concept and actually demonstrate it and show people what it looks like, so that you can kind of get it into your head and get it into your muscles and be like, oh, okay. Because for some folks, some of this embodiment context, some of the somatic learning, it's like, for me, having been a martial artist, like, you can describe to me a judo throw, but if you show me it, then all of a sudden there's like this different aha moment. I'm like, oh, that's what you mean. And then I can ask questions of sensei, and then, you know, in a martial arts class, then I can be like, well, sensei, can you throw me? Like throw me so I can feel it. In the deep dive retreat, we won't be doing that kind of thing. But for people who are coming with their partners or with a friend or a lover, you will have homework assignment time. So we'll show, we'll tell, people ask questions, they'll take notes, and then people will have a break to go off and practice, and then we'll come back and have more questions. So if you're interested in any of that, or if you just want to see what that kind of the breakdown of what that looks like as a, you know, invitation to come to a deep dive, then you can go to readaboutsexx.com/deep dive, and that'll give you the sales invite page for the online course, the deep dive retreat as well, and it'll also let you, another neighbor driving by and waving, and then it also mentions the 3-day retreat that I've got coming up in the fall for Halloween, the weekend before Halloween. So thanks again, everybody, for being a part of the walk today. The sun is in my eye, so I can't see the screen. But if you give me some emoticons as on my way out, I'll be able to see it when I rewatch the video and answer comments and things like that. Thanks again, everyone. It's so, I appreciate that you get to be my excuse to get the hell out of the house, get some sunshine. I hope today was useful, and Allison, I hope I didn't share too much information. And I'll talk to you guys all later. Have a great Saturday when this was broadcast live. All right, bye.